women constantly look for permission to want leadership roles. My friend Ellen Colgan-Lipton, who's a patent attorney, said, I told her, I don't know why I struggle to really want to do this. She says, Rashida, all women. I struggled, and she's really smart. I think she went to Stanford, and she's really intelligent. And she also looked for, it's like you almost want people to push you. And it's like you need somebody to push you into those leadership positions. But know that, you can create your own group of people to do that and support you. But I'm going to take questions now and get a feel of what things you want me to talk about. Any questions? Come on, guys.
Feel free, guys.
How did you feel when you went through this struggle?
I mean, thing is, alhamdulillah, I think that everybody says, I think there was our story that somebody said, how do you do this with the recall and all the industry in your district and everything? When you sully 5 times a day, and I'm not trying to promote religion and authority here, but when you sully, it's almost meditation. And then when you do that and you have that kind of strong faith, just like my colleagues who are, go to Baptist churches, they need to go every Sunday. That's their way of building strength because, faith can really bring strength to me. So if it wasn't for my faith, I don't know if I could survive it. Yes?
Go back to high school. What are some of the things that you now wish that you've done at that time?
Well, I got involved in debate late in high school. And it was something of elective, because in your senior year is when you start looking at electives much more seriously. Because then you're like, okay, I have to apply for colleges, I have to make my resume look good. But I wish I got involved in those kinds of extracurricular activities before. Because debate, the first debate I ever had, I had a partner, and I went up, and I'm not joking, I choked. I completely choked. I'm not joking, I really did. I see this stuff on TV, and until it happened to me, I couldn't believe it. I kept looking at the index cards, and I just choked. I felt my face turn red. I remember it, and I was like, my face must be so red. I wouldn't want. Every time I looked up, I could feel myself getting dizzy because the people were staring at me. And my partner literally leaves and wants to go find a different partner. She's like, I can't. Rashida just choked. I'm not. I want to win because she's very competitive. And I remember my teacher saying to her, no, you're going to stick with Rashida. This is not about winning. This is about building leadership and so forth. And if it wasn't for Mrs. Marshall at Southwestern High School, I would have never stayed in debate. And let me tell you, debate to this day really built that. I mean, I still get nervous when I talk in public, but my God, if it wasn't for those kinds of, encouragement and leadership and trying to push me and doing things like that early on, where early on, those kinds of mistakes or those kinds of incidents, they might be embarrassing for that moment. It's better to have them when you're younger and to use that experience than have them when you're older, okay? But please, get involved. This is a great, if this is like a club, which it looks like it is, this is a great process to really understand. And I wish I knew more when I was 18 voting. Learn more. I really want you to also not be afraid of elected officials. Let me tell you, they're human beings. Some of them are idiots. Some of them, I swear, are so dumb. You're like, how the heck did this person get elected? You're just and I'm not joking to you. Some are so completely out of the loop. You probably could write a thesis on their job better than they could. And it's true. But I don't want you to be intimidated by them. I want you to be able to be strong and call them if there's something about your, in your future, if your kids' education, something about your property taxes, whatever your issues are. Be aggressive. Call up and say, hello, my name is so-and-so, and I live in your district. And that vote really upset me. Every time that happens to any of my colleagues, because they rely on people back home not knowing what they did in Lansing. They really do. Some vote against certain things, and they just cross their fingers and hope that nobody knew they voted against their district when they come home. When they come home, it's like they come to meetings, wave, hi, oh, you look great, pretend they knew you, remembered you, and then they give you a little tribute, everybody's nice, they eat with you, it's great. But what really matters is how they represent you in the legislature. That was a long answer, but it really the answer was to get involved in extracurricular activities.
Rashida, the student government, they use Harvard rules for the
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
procedure. So What do you have to say about that?
That's excellent. I mean, that's what we used for student council in the different clubs that we had in high school. It's very common. Actually, black clubs and different associations use the Robert Rules of Order, and it's very, very common. And a lot of even how professional corporate boards also function is based on these kinds of rules. So it's really important. It's really cool to know those rules of order. By the way, in committee, what you did, all that that's all part of like the process in the legislature. I would love for you guys to come down and actually see a committee hearing. But let me find one where we're going to have a controversy. That way it's more action. You'll enjoy it. There's one tomorrow, but I know you guys can't get there tomorrow. It's about teacher pensions. It's going to be exciting. People are going to offer amendments. And people are going to be gavelled, like they'll gavel people out, and everything. And that's where it gets a little bit testy. And it's much more, because then you're like, oh my God, what is happening? Instead of the boring stuff. Anything else? Yes.
So you mentioned that you pretty much work 80 hours a week and you're busy. And a lot of us here, and I can say for myself, I'm pretty busy and I sometimes don't have time for family, or most of the time I don't. So when do you know, is there a limit, or is there a time to stop, to relax?
Yeah.
Is there,
So you decide, and let me tell you, you follow your intuition. There's that one moment where you're in the car or you're doing something, you're like, okay, do I go to that next meeting or do I go see my kids? And you will decide, oh, I'm going to go see my kids, I'm going to see my family. But Sundays, I have this rule. These days I haven't been following it because of the campaign. But I have a rule, like Sundays, I just don't work. I just don't work on Sundays. I go home, I spend time with my family. I take vacations with my family. But I also check in with my family. Thank God for social media. Sometimes I'm able to we have this messaging thing with my brothers and sisters. I have a lot of them, as you know. You guys ever see Brothers and Sisters, that show? You ever see that show, Brothers and Sisters? That's my family on steroids, but we're on steroids. We're always, but it's more gossipy than that. But it does help that we have social media, and I'm checking out folks. But my kids are younger, and one of the reps that has older kids said, she got involved in politics when her kids were younger, and she said they need you, but not really. Like my husband is wonderful. He's phenomenal, and he's much more patient than I am. They need you or so forth, but it's when they get in the teenage years where you gotta your eyes have to be straight. Yeah, that's when you guys stray. And that's when you need both parents on you constantly, 150% time. You know it too. Because that's when you guys, your decisions are just, eldest, I'm telling you, I have a younger sister who's 13 and my other sister who's 17. They're crazy. I mean, my mom goes, I don't know, she'll have textbook. And I'm like, Mom, Facebook. I don't know. But all I had to worry about with you, Rashida, was the phone. And she didn't let me out of the house. I mean, if we looked out of the house, it was in the fence. I couldn't even leave the fence. Now my mother's like, what is this? What is this? So I know, my mother cannot understand this Facebook thing. She goes, she really, she says bad things about the internet, very bad things about the internet. She thinks the internet is like the shaitan brought the internet to the country and the world. So anyways, that has caused a lot of really upheaval among my household. And I know my worst fear is some of the things I've heard from my prosecutor friends. What happens to kids on the internet is just unbelievable. I cannot believe girls and boys do the stuff that you guys do on the internet. It's unbelievable. Yes.
Okay, being the eldest like me, how did you manage your time with your siblings throughout high school and then during your campaign in a sense?
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I had breakdowns. I mean, it was hard because my mother depended a lot on me. My mother is not very much of an enforcer. She's kind of unless somebody's crying or it's a crisis, that's when she intervenes. Where I'm the one who prevented, and say, Mama, if you don't say this to this person, she's gonna do da-da-da. She's like, whatever. And then when she does, she goes, oh my God, I can't believe it happened. I'm like, but I told you it's gonna happen if you don't say anything. But I spent 3 o'clock in the morning doing my papers. My mother did not really, I love my mother. My mother just didn't truly appreciate or understand why I wanted to stay in school, why I wanted to continue. Even when I was I was taking the bar exam. Let me give you an example. I was taking the bar exam, which is so important for a lawyer. My mother, you know, that's it. I graduated from law school. I'm done. I'm like, okay, Mom, but I have to get my license. And she goes, yeah. She thinks it's like a form or something. I explained to her it's a test. And every time she would call me, I'm at Wayne State studying at the library. And I'm taking the bar exam at this big stadium at MSU, like the big stadium. They make you, I mean, hundreds of us. And who's calling me during the bar exam is my mother. And then I call her during the break. I'm like, yeah, Mama. She goes, why didn't you answer? Where were you? And I'm like, Mom, I'm taking the bar exam. She goes, so you can't walk away. I'm like, it's timed. I can't, you know. So be patient with your parents. Some of them do not understand this at all. They really don't. My mother, honest to God, she really thinks like I go and I see Obama every day. No, really. And it's not like she's not unintelligent. She just doesn't understand the processes, and she doesn't understand like school and the importance of it. You know, my husband even, you know, who graduated from high school in Palestine, and when he came here and he saw like how much, because I was still a sophomore at Wayne State University, and you know, this is something he and I talked about before we got married. I said, you know, I'm gonna, you know, stay in school. I don't know if I want to go to law school. I don't know, you know, we'll see what happens. I'm gonna take every, you know, single time, every step. But I told him I do not want kids for a very long time because of my brothers and sisters. And I warned him, you're gonna marry me, I'm like the third parent. Yeah. We had, I think I've had 6 different siblings move in with us. I'm like the port of entry. You know how people go through immigration to get the stamp at the airport? I'm like the stamp. So they come and they're like, my mom's like, I can't take it, you know, take her, or you know, whatever. And they'll move in with me for a period of time, and of course they can't stand it because I'm very rule oriented. Like I've actually I call it spy tech. My brother and everything, but I actually go and follow them, make sure they went to school. I do all that, and I'm like crazy like that because I think, you know, with friends that are prosecutors and the horror stories you hear, and then the things that I've heard, like people like I couldn't believe did things that they did. I just know that your judgment right now, and I think Allah sometimes tests you around this age. You know, you need somebody behind you making sure that, you know, I direct you in the right path a little bit. So, but it's hard, but it with strength, I promise.
Just speak for a few minutes. Rashida, what's the coolest part in your job?
You know, my community organizing stuff. So the power to convene people. You know, I could have never imagined as just a regular person organizing 100 and something people to block trucks. And what we did is, you know, the trucks when they come off the bridge from Canada, you go YouTube video on it, there's a YouTube video on it. And we, about 14 of us, started, we organized blocking the trucks from coming off the bridge. And we stopped U.S. trade for 45 minutes. And it is something of like thrill because when I was sitting there and the police was trying to get, Homeland Security was everywhere, people didn't know what to do. And as the trucks like stopped, you could see the bridge, all the trucks backed up. And I remember calling like all the residents I knew in Windsor, letting them know we were doing this action. They said, no, do it, he deserves it. And so when I'm sitting there, I remember them pushing the trucks in, and I got on my knees holding my friend's hand. We got on our knees, and I was like, I'm not moving. And when the deputy police chief came, and I had a baseball cap on, and so I wasn't hiding. It was just like I knew that I needed a cap just in case, you know, like the shade gets hot or whatever. And as he comes around, I saw him. I said, Tolbert, don't break, just leave it alone. And he goes, oh my God, I knew it was you. I knew this was you. And then he didn't, because of that, and he didn't harm anybody. And that's sometimes the power of your office in the sense that, do you really want to arrest a state representative right now, or do you want to cause this kind of havoc? And for you to lead your people into doing things like that, let me tell you, they still talk about it to this day. The Reverend Baker and people that were so upset about a vote that happened in Lansing. I mean, I had residents crying because people voted for the corporation instead of the people. And to do that kind of organizing and movement and that kind of protest, it was phenomenal. And so you guys should know that.